Hello and welcome to the Ritual Weaver podcast. This is episode 3. I'm Victoria and you can find me on Instagram at Ritual Weaver. So this week I have one finished object and a couple whips to share with you guys, and just a couple small acquisitions / reading materials. I hope that you guys enjoy this format of filming more frequently, even if it means there's less to share in the video. I find that it's working for my schedule, and it also makes it a little bit more manageable so that I'm not uploading one massive video just like jammed with everything. So a lot of you wanted to know how I ended up in the Basque Country, what am I doing here? And like I mentioned, I moved to Europe about 4 years ago from the US. And I live here with my husband, who's originally born in France, and he's Basque, so he's originally from here. His family's all here, including his 2 twin daughters. And we work together in a couple of different ways. He's a healer, and I guess what you could call a medicine man. And so we work together primarily through leading immersions in nature and different spiritual retreats. We work with plants and plant medicine together. I have some background as a clinical herbalist as well. And so in that capacity, we work with master plants and we hold retreats at our home here. We also have a small batch essential oil company that creates like really high-end, high-frequency, limited, very, very limited essential oils. We work together on bringing out this system called the Sphinx Code, or the Fee Code, that he developed over 10 years of sort of coaching and guiding others. And it utilizes the archetypes of the major arcana, or the tarot, to show your personal subconscious architecture or your personal archetypes and myth. And so that's something that we do sessions in, and we train other practitioners in as well. So if you're interested in any of those things in the work that we do, I will also leave the links below. However, just know that I won't go too much into detail about the other work that we do here. This is primarily a fiber space for me. And so I'm going to try to keep this channel predominantly fiber related. And so with that, we'll get right into our finished object today, which I am wearing. So this is the Desert Bloom top by Rachel Knits Things. And this is made with Manos del Uruguay Milo yarn. And I'll stand up so you can get a full visual of it. This is a raglan construction with a peplum and sort of an overlaid V. It has I-cord edging here and here, some gathering at the peplum, and short sleeves. And this is the colorway Roma from Manos. And the yarn itself is it's like a 65% merino wool, 30% linen blend, which is it's really amazing. It's soft, and yet it still has structure and drape to it. And I love this yarn. I love their colorways. I love the ethos of the company, which helps basically women in rural areas and communities make a living, and it supports them. It's a nonprofit organization. Like, you really could not ask for a better yarn organization. So I have already ordered several other colorways to make this. I was not joking. I'm gonna make this in pretty much every colorway that they have. And it's light without being, too, like, I could potentially wear this into the summer. It's not too much of just a summer garment. It would layer really, really well. And I love the pattern. As you guys know, I'm like all about the clarity of a pattern, and she makes things and instructions extremely clear. For me, it's really important that a designer lists out the instructions as if I was a brand new knitter, and doesn't make any assumptions about my skill level or ability to read instructions whatsoever. I am one of those people that oftentimes I can learn a knitting or weaving skill and do it to a level of mastery, and then the next time that I go to use it, I've completely forgotten everything that I learned. So I really appreciate when designers really lay things out step by step as clearly as possible, and don't assume that I already know how to construct a garment, which she does really well. And for a raglan construction, this is knit flat, so it's not in the round, and it's pretty purl heavy, but working with this specific yarn with the wool allows it some ease, so it's not as hard on your hands as, say, a cotton or solid linen piece would be. I find that the fiber itself is really enjoyable to knit, and that I really didn't mind how purl heavy it was, actually, especially once I got past the raglan increases. It just kind of, it wasn't that I couldn't do it mindlessly, but it just really flew a lot faster than I anticipated, and also because I was really excited as I was knitting it to watch the colors come to life. I mean, I want to show you guys again close up, so you can really see the depth of the colorway and the pattern, which is, it's like the linen brings these tonal variations to the wool, which just makes it really beautiful. And the I-cord edging was not too difficult. This is a lot more I-cord than I've done before, so it has it on the border of the peplum, all around the neckline and the sleeves. And there were a few spots where I could have checked my tension a little bit better with the I-cord, but overall it was not that difficult. I think often, perhaps right here is where, when you first start it, or it would be on the inside depending on how you wrapped the top, but I think that's where most people struggle with the tension being a little bit too tight on the I-cord, and so I just made a note, like kind of a mental note of that, and I think that it turned out totally fine. And another thing I really like about the pattern is the ability to sort of customize it to your measurements. So you can customize the sleeve length, you can choose the sizing based on the bust measurements, and then also you have the opportunity to really play with the length in a flattering way, so it doesn't make the garment, doesn't really shift the overall aesthetics and drape of the garment when you're changing the height, which for a lot of people can be really difficult. But I think it's a very flattering style for multiple body types, because you can actually make it more conservative or modest or revealing depending on your preference. You could even stitch a few stitches here to keep the top part really closed if you wanted it to. And yeah, and I just think it's a wonderful layering piece, and it's super practical and functional, and you can wear it from the spring, summer, and fall, probably even into the winter if you want to layer it. And I can't say enough good things about this pattern. So I am knitting more of these, and I already have another one on the needles. So I have one colorway here, same exact yarn. Like I said, I'm obsessed with this yarn, and I have two more colors on the way. So the next one that is on my needles currently is the colorway Morocco. And I mean, it's so hard to capture it properly on camera, but it's really, the best way I can describe it is it's almost like a muted rainbow jewel tone. And so for those of you who have especially warmer coloring and complexions similar to mine, and you love the rainbow trends that are happening, but the pastel or the cool bases just don't work for you, like, consider this. It's so beautiful. And as you're knitting it, it's very hard to see because I really don't have that much to show yet, but it's creating this really amazing rainbow, like variegation. I don't know how you would say that. Variegation. But as I was winding it and sort of caking it, I noticed that actually the patterning from the skein to the ball, like, really brought out like the different transition of the colors in a beautiful way, more than I originally realized. So again, this is Morocco, and it's going to be the exact same as this garment. I'm going to make the exact same measurements. I knit this in a size small. I believe it's a size small, but there are 2 measurements for the size small, so it is the larger measurement, if that makes sense. And yeah, because I'm so in love with the colorway, it probably won't take me that long to knit this. I was so excited to see this one coming to life. I think it took me about 10 days or so, and that wasn't knitting it fast or full-time or anything. So just working on it here and there. So that is my first work in progress, is this Morocco colorway in the exact same desert bloom top. And I can't say enough good things about the pattern or the yarn. It's just incredible. And then my next whip is also another duplicate. It is the My Favorite Things sweater number 11, but this time I am knitting it in yarn from my stash. And I don't really have a big stash. Typically, I buy yarns specifically when I have a use for them. I have a couple of things that I had planned on, but then I didn't end up liking the tone once it arrived so much. So this was one of those instances where I had the Gilliatt yarn in this colorway and also this Lang mohair. And I had originally intended them for separate projects and then decided that they weren't in fact the right fibers for those projects. So now they have been sitting, and I'm happy that actually their combination works pretty beautifully in this like very cool, it's almost, it's not quite a blue and it's not quite a green colorway. However, I don't know if I will end up personally wearing this. I might end up gifting this sweater just because it is much more cool of a tone than I normally wear, but I'm definitely willing to try it and see how it looks once it's all complete. And I'm also knitting that again in the size small of the sweater number 11 pattern, and the Gilliatt from Rerum Natura, I think is how you say it, is 100% wool. And right now the whole thing is being knit on, I think it's US 8. Let me see, yeah, US 8 needles. And it's held 1-to-1, so double with the Lang mohair, which is 77% mohair and 23% silk. I haven't used this mohair before. I think it's a commercial brand, and I haven't worked with it enough on this project to give a proper review, but so far, I mean, you can see it's really fluffy, like really, really fluffy. It's not bad, but it's not my favorite mohair. I'm not quite sure why, if it's the softness of it. Like for me, it feels not quite as soft as some of the mohairs I have worked with, but I don't really have anything great to compare it with at this moment. So I definitely want to work with it more before making up my mind completely. But I am happy that the colorway is actually turning out pretty beautiful. And I have no doubt that it will knit up like the other My Favorite Things sweater number 11 that I did, which creates a super soft, squishy, just really nice fabric. So that is what I'm working on currently. Now I have 2 small acquisitions, which are books, which are also sort of like the reading component because I'm going to start going through them. And one of those is, like many of you recommended, the Vogue Knitting Bible. It's the ultimate knitting book, and it is full of different techniques, tips, pretty much anything I might need for a knitting reference book, which is important because I don't have one. And where I live in the mountains, every time it rains or we have a big storm, it's very easy for the power to go out or for me to lose Wi-Fi. So having some sources on hand like this to just reference quickly if I need to and don't have access to the internet, was my primary decision for purchasing that. So I'm excited to go through it. I haven't so far. And then next I got this, and I'm really excited because, as some of you know, you saw my rigid heddle loom in the back of my other videos. I also have an inkle loom, a Navajo loom, and a floor loom, which I'll talk about in a second. But this book is for my rigid heddle loom, and this is for weaving overshot on a rigid heddle loom. And you don't really need that many accessories. Rigid heddle weaving is really accessible if you're just starting to begin your weaving journey. Rigid heddle weaving, you can actually do some really amazing things, and the overshots are really beautiful, and they're not as complex as you would actually think. So this is by Myra Wood, and again, she lays out the instructions and all of your sort of equipment needs really, really simply. And I think that it's a great book for people who are looking for something exciting to do on the rigid heddle loom, aside from just kind of basic stitches and stitch patterns. So I'm really excited to create a few things from this, and hopefully in the next few months. I have not been doing any weaving lately, which you might notice everything is knitting related right now, because I'm headed to a weaving training in France in the end of September to work on floor looms. And I'm really excited. This is with a woman who has this weaving retreat center in France. I will put links to her below as well. It's my first time attending any of her retreats and trainings, but she speaks English and she's sort of local to me, and she's a couple hours away. So it was a great opportunity for me to get to go study with her. I'm excited to try a few different types of floor looms while I'm there and just really get a better foundation going for my weaving. I also do have a floor loom that I acquired here that I was sort of gifted. I've been refurbishing it, slowly collecting the missing pieces for it and getting it back up and running. And a lot of it has to be ordered specially because it is a vintage loom. So it's a vintage Glamacra Ideal loom, which is 70 centimeters. It's very cute and compact, and I'll definitely make a video in the future once I have everything together. I might film myself going through and getting it all kind of strung up and tied up and warped up again. And it's really exciting. It is a counterbalance, so I'm getting used to also finding materials to work with the counterbalance because it's slightly different than the counter march or the jack looms. And yeah, it's a little like workhorse. So I'm happy to have it, and I'm hoping to film a lot more weaving content after September, if you guys are wondering about that. And I have a few more trainings also lined up for 2023 that I'm attending in the US that I'm really excited for and excited to share with all of you. So that's pretty much it for today. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you.